Hello everyone, I am Abrar, and in this video I am going to introduce you to the very basic concepts of C programming, which is one of the most powerful programming languages in the whole world. But before that, you need to download one software, which is CodeBlocks. Type in CodeBlocks in Google and choose the first option there. Go to downloads and download the binary release. Okay, so it is going to show you a couple of options, and what you need to do is download this one, MINGW, because it comes with the compiler. So just go to this site and it's very easy. Just download the installation file from here, and the installation steps are as simple as any other installation programs. And next, what you are going to get is this CodeBlocks. So here I have written a very long code which will definitely seem a little complex for the beginners, but believe me, you will understand each and every line of it. So now what I can do is show you what's happening here. Let's run the program, and it gives you just options to perform 4 different operations. So let's enter choice, and if I give 1, it asks me for a number. Let's give 5, 2, and it gives me a sum of 2 numbers is 7. 5 plus 2 is indeed 7. So then it asks me to perform, if I want to perform another calculation. If I give yes, it just repeats this process. If I input 3, give 4, 7, 28, pretty cool. And if I give n, the program ends, and that's how it runs. Now what we are going to do is open a new project. So go to file, go to new, and select project, and you're going to get a bunch of options. Select console application from there, press go, and so it will give you 2 options. So C++ is just another programming language for now. We will go for C. Press next, and you have to give a project title. I will give mine Abrar project, and I have made a folder before, and where I will be saving my project. Then press next, and make sure you don't touch anything here because it's all set up. Press finish, and now you will be seeing that your project will show up here. So every project you create, you will see all of them here. So go to sources and select main. So you will be welcomed with a very basic code. So this is basically the text editor. We will be writing every code here. So what this code does is just prints out hello world. So that we are now going to learn how to print something out. So to print something, what we need to write is printf and give parenthesis and then inverted comma, and then whatever you write inside, you'll get that on the screen. So let's write this is a C tutorial and make sure after every statement you type a semicolon, and then if you run it, you will see that exactly what you wrote inside the inverted comma, it prints that. Now let's print another line of that. Let's write, we will learn how to print, put in inverted comma, and now if you run this, it actually doesn't do what exactly we want it to. So when you write this, the program thinks that we're just going to print one after another. So if you want to print in the next line after you print tutorial, you have to type \n. Now if you run this program, it prints this is a C tutorial, goes to the next line, and then prints we will learn how to print. So that's how you go to the next line. There are a couple more things. If you press tab T, it actually thinks you will give a tab space. So if you run now, there's a tab space between the lines. There's one more thing. If you give /a, /a means alarm or alert. So it makes a beep sound when you run this. Let me run. So so after after this prints, this is a C tutorial, it makes a beep sound and then this prints. So you may hear when I run this. Let me run this again. So it makes a sound. If you can hear it, I don't know if you can hear it now, but I just heard it in my headphones.
So now we are going to learn about something called the comments. So comments are usually used to explain what a particular set of code is used for. So here, if I write, so here we are just printing out two two lines of two lines two lines. So to write a comment, you have to type double backslash and then write whatever you want. So if we write this code prints two lines and then run it, it actually does the same thing. So comments actually doesn't affect the program in any way. It just so the I mean the when the compiler runs the program, it actually ignores this piece of piece of line. So comments are usually just to help yourself. When you come back to the program, you just remember what you have done before, or what piece of code does what. It just it just helps yourself. So there's another thing. So if you want to write multiple lines of comments, what you have to do is type single backslash and then double asterisk and then another backslash, and in between whatever you write is just it will just be ignored, and this is for multiple lines. So if I write just multiple lines and run this again, it actually ignores this part, ignores these lines. So it is a useful thing, and professional programmers use this because they they have to write long pieces of code, and it's just usual, it's common them for them to forget about something they wrote before. So when they come back, they will know what they have written by, as they use the comments. So it's a good practice to write comments when you code. We are going to learn something very important, and it's called conversion characters. So for to do that, first let's delete these lines. Now let's say I just print on the screen, I have eaten 5 apples, and now I want to give myself the freedom to change this 5 into anything I want. So if I delete this, and 5 is actually a text, not a number. So to for a text I have to write percentage %s, which means string. I'll come to that when we talk about variables later. So if I write 5 here with inverted comma and print this and run this one, it actually does the same thing. So I have I have written whatever I have to write and close the inverted comma, and then typed in a comma, and when I wrote this 5, it actually replaces this place. So if I also write percentage %s here and then give a comma and then write mangoes, so it actually also replaces that place and prints I have eaten 5 mangoes. So it prints out sequentially. So 5 represents this position, mangoes represent this position. So what if I want to replace this with something, with an integer? So what I have to do is write percentage %d. So these are actually a little difficult to remember, but just practice, and you will learn. You will just it will just get into your head. So what if I write 5 here? So without any inverted commas, if you write any whole numbers, don't use any inverted commas here. If I write 5 and percentage %d, so 5 should represent this position. So if I run this, it prints I have eaten 5 mangoes. So this actually runs sequentially. 5 represents percentage %d because I have written percentage %d at first, and percentage %s goes for mangoes because it's in the second place, and mangoes is also in the second place. And make sure you separate them with commas. So it's basically, suppose um, it gives the programmer the freedom to uh, print whatever they want. So suppose the typed in 5 5, so it will show 5, and if the user types in 10, it will show 10 mangoes. So that's how it is used in programming. Come to the most important part of this tutorial: variables. So variables are something that you can assign a value to. So a variable's value can change throughout the program. Suppose x x, it can be any name, x equals 5. So if you write x equals 5, that means when you print x, it will print 5. So if when I write x equals to 5 here, it will actually give an error. Let's see. So it actually gives an error, and what it shows is in the error in the message section is x is undeclared. So what does this mean by undeclared? So when I assigned 5 to x, the compiler actually doesn't understand why is 5 assigned to x. So before you assign 5 to x, you have to declare that. So you have to say the program that for I am going to put integer values or whole numbers in x. So to do that, for integer value you have to write int and then type x. So this part is called the declaration. So when now you write x, now x equals 5. So if I now type x in place in place of 5 now, so now this part represents x and the value of x is 5. Let's see what it does. So now as the value of x is 5, it runs I have eaten 5 mangoes because x equals 5. So x is an integer. For integer you have to write percentage %d. Now let's do something uh, more sophisticated. So you can also declare multiple variables if they are the if they are the same, if they are um, of the same type. Let's say y, so you have to separate them by comma. So now x is also an integer, y is also an integer, and then let's say sum. So if x equals 5 and y equals 8, and then we write sum equals x plus y, and then we write sum here. So sum, if we calculate manually, it should be 5 plus 8, 13. So it should print I have eaten 13 mangoes. So if you run that, it prints I have eaten 13 mangoes. So sum is also a integer. So to to when you add these two, it also gives an integer. So it prints sum, and you have to write percentage %d. So more data types. So one of those are float, which represents decimal numbers. So let's say I declare avg, which suppose is an average of x and y, and then calculate the average of x and y. So to calculate, I have to add those and divide by 2, and then print them out. Average equals percentage, and this time I will not write percentage %d because it's a float. For float I have to write percentage %f and print out the average. Now when I run this, it should actually give me 6.5, but it doesn't. So what happens here? So when I added x plus y, x and y is actually integer value. These both are integer values. So x plus y is also an integer. So when x plus y is divided by 2, it actually doesn't give 6.5 because 6.5 is a decimal number. It actually ignores that decimal point and take 6, and when so this so the result of this is 6,
And when this is assigned to average, the average value, the average just adds a decimal after 6 and just prints out 6.000. So how do we change this? How do we print out the correct value? So if I um, declare x and y as float as well, so and so there, so sum is also a float now. So now I have to write percentage %f here, and what what happens now if I run? It actually gives me 6.5000, and as sum is also a float now, it gives 13.000. So these are actually some extra values. It actually doesn't make the pro lines actually doesn't look good. These are unnecessary numbers. So how do we manage this? If you write percent point two here in between the percent and f, and let's say point two here as well. Let's say what it does. It actually controls how many decimal points or how many uh, figures it will show after the decimal. So as I wrote point two, it printed out two decimal, two numbers after decimal, and here as well. So that's how you print out float. Another variable type called character. So to declare that, you have to write char, and let's say we give the name c, and to assign you have to write c equals single inverted comma, and let's say we assign capital Y. And now how do we print that? So I have given a backslash n to go to the next line, and then print that this Y. So to represent a character value or character data, we have to write percentage %c and then the variable. Now if I run this, it prints at Y here. Now what if I want to assign a word, not a single letter? To declare a word, you also have to use char, but now let's say we give the name s, but we have to mention what is the maximum number of um, letter we are going we are going to use in that, we're going to use in that word. So let's say we are going to use a maximum of 10 letters. In programming terms, 10 is called the length of the string. So how do we print this? Now if we want to assign a value to s, you actually cannot just do just write s equals our word like hello, s equals hello. It actually doesn't allow you to do that. So there are uh, other codes which are actually a little advanced for now. But for now, just know that to declare a whole word, you have to mention this entire uh, the length of the string. Till now, I have just shown you how to print out stuff. But what if you want the user to input these values, the values of x and y? So let's delete this, and now we will take input from the user. So to take inputs, you have to write scanf, and then put inverted commas, and in the inverted comma you have to use percentage %d
if you are taking input of integer. So for now we are taking input of integer. Let's just turn declare them into integer, and for integer you have to write percentage d like before, and for float you have to use percentage f. So now you have to write the variable you are going to assign. So if I write x here, it is going to take the value the user inputs and then assign it to x. Now before x we have to write n percent. So it actually n percent x actually uh, defines the location of x. So when the user types in, it actually sends that value to the location of x. So just to make the program look good, let's write enter value of x before before the user types in the value of x, and let's copy this, and then it will show it the value of y, and we will input y. Now if I just then print out the sum, that's the sum of x and y equals percentage d, and that percentage d will be the sum. And for now let's just ignore this part, so let's just turn them into comments. That's just a clever use of comments. I just the program will now ignore this part. Now what the program is supposed to do is first print this, then take input of x, and then again show the user, ask the user to print value of y, and then take y, add those two, and then print sum of those two. Now let's see if this runs correctly. And now if you see, after it prints enter the value of x, it's actually waiting for me to enter a value. Now if I enter 4 and press enter, it goes to next line, prints enter value of y, and again when it goes to scanf, it is waiting for me to enter another value. Now when I press 7 and press enter, it takes that 7 and assign that to y. So press enter, it goes now x, and x is 4, y is 7, and 4 plus 7 is 11, and then it prints sum of x and y equals 11. I'm going to show you something called conditional operators. So let's delete this part, and first operator is if else. So how, let's see how this works. So write if else, if, and then a close bracket, and then curly braces. So in this part you have to write a condition, and if that condition is true, it will run whatever you write in between these curly braces. So let's say when we type in the value of x and y, if x is greater than y, it will print out x is greater than y. Else which means if this condition is not true, it will go to this. Else, if I will give another condition, so if you want to give another condition, it will go to else if, and let's say y is greater than x, and then another curly brace, print y is greater than x. Now at the end of this condition, when both of these are false, you have to write else and then print the line of code that it is going to run only if both of these are false. So if x is greater than, if x is not greater than y and y is also not greater than x, then they both must be equal. Then let's say x equals y. So if we run this, let's say 6 and 3, so it goes to this line, x is greater than y, yes, x is greater than y, so the conditions meet, and it runs this, and it doesn't go to these lines, it just skips this and ends the program. So let's uh, input another value, 3 8 y greater than x, and if they are equal, 5 5 x equals y. Now I'm going to show you something called a loop, which I have used in the program I showed you in the beginning of the tutorial. So in this program I used something called do, which ends with the while and a condition. So it's basically called while do loop. So do while loop, I'm sorry. So it to write that you have to use a curly brace like you used in if, and what it actually does, and as long as this condition is true, it just keeps repeating the lines of code eh, uh, which are written inside these curly braces. So in this um, simple calculator, if I say so, so what it does is gives us, just prints this addition, subtraction, gives the user options. I have used backslash n to go to the next line and enter the choice which is assigned to n, and if n is 1, it performs addition, and just simple method takes two numbers and prints out addition. I've just declared num1 num2 as float, and if I input now n equals 2, if I input 2, then it performs subtraction. If I input 3, it performs multiplication, and if I input 4, it performs division. But what if I what if I um, input a wrong value, uh, suppose 0 or 6? So what it does is prints uh, invalid input, try again, and turns the flag to 1. So there's actually something I need to change. Flag should be an integer because its value is just 0 or 1. So I'll show you how I am using this flag. So initially in the loop I am keeping the value of flag to 0, and when the value of flag is 1, the loop, the, the program repeats. So when when I input a wrong value, I change that flag to 1 and continue. Now what does this continue mean? Continue is actually used, can only be used inside loop. So when you write continue, it skips or ignores everything after that and just goes to the last line, which is the condition, and just sees if the condition is true. So before I would continue, I would flag equals to 1, and if the flag is indeed equals 1, and this equals is not, I'm not actually assigning 1 to flag, I am comparing 1 to flag, and this means is flag equals 1, and flag is actually equals 1 when I input an invalid number, so it repeats itself. Now what if I what when the program ends, what if I input a correct value and the program suppose performs addition, and then it goes here, and I have written something called f flush. It actually um, it actually flushes, like flush or vanishes the any previous storage inside this compiler. It just makes it easy, just error free. So it's a good use when you are when you are taking multiple inputs, because you are taking a lot of inputs here. So I have used flush, and it asks me if I want to do a new calculation, and I take a character, and if the character is y, and this means, okay, there was a problem in the recorder, so let's get to what I was saying. So here I use something like two parallel lines. I don't know what they're called. So these two actually means or. So what it actually says is, if c is equals small y, or c is equals capital Y, the flag is 1, and the flag is just assigned to 1. So when it goes to show see if the flag is 1, and it is indeed 1, and it repeats. So when I type in y or capital Y, so it the process repeats. And there is another thing called AND, which means when both of both of these conditions are true. So for these situations, C cannot actually be both small I and capital Y. Just to show you that double double person and means uh, it just mean and it means that if c is equals small y and c is equals capital Y. So for this situation, it actually is just irrelevant. So let's give or, and it repeats the program. So now this is actually basically everything I wanted to show. There is one little thing which is actually which will is a actually important part. So you have noticed that everything I have written till now is actually in this int main and inside these curly braces. So what does this actually mean? Int main is actually the main function of this program. So there you all every time you write a code, there has to be an int main. So what the compiler, when you run the compiler actually goes to the to int the main function first and reads the main function before everything. So you can actually make other functions, like if you suppose want to make calculate the average temperature. So you can name average temp and just bracket, and inside these you can um, write a process, make the process of calculating the average temperature. So it's just the, for now I am not showing this. So what you need to know is this is a main function. So you need to there all there always needs to be a main function, and at the end of this function I have written return 0. So return 0 is actually to assure that if the program ran correctly. So if I run this program, when you run this program, it actually after it gives x is greater than y, it also shows that process returns 0. Okay, so by that I mean I can be sure that the compiler went through every single line of code and reached here, so it ran perfectly. There are no un, um, errors that we have done in the code. So just keep this in mind, and there are other uses which I'm not going to show you now for the time being, and that's basically it. So I hope you have enjoyed this tutorial, and if you have any problems you can just repeat and show, and then try it yourself, uh, see this tutorial again and again, and happy coding.